It wasn't that long ago that China and Taiwan were on friendlier footing. A historic meeting between President Xi Jinping and then leader Ma Ying-jeou in 2015 was the culmination of a decade of deepening economic and political ties. Even though ties have frayed under pro-independence leader Tsai Ing-wen, the mainland is still Taiwan's largest trading partner. In July 2022, the mainland was the top destination for Taiwan's exports, accounting for almost a quarter of the total. ASEAN was second on the list, and the United States was third. A central part of that is Taiwan's dominant semiconductor industry, which is crucial to making electronics like smartphones, computers, and cars.
Almost 1/4 of the ICT products in China is imported from Taiwan. So definitely, I think from a trade perspective, in a more integrated or globalized world, even though we see a bit of decoupling recently, this relationship, especially in the ICT supply chain, has not really faded. If there's anything, it has only strengthened in the past couple of years.
The reality is large manufacturers like Foxconn have got operations in China, so they form a very integral supply chain, and that contributes to far more synergies and exports. And that's why sometimes, like in this case, one may argue that exports numbers alone or trade numbers alone could even understate the importance of the relationship between Taiwan and China.
That's why experts agree that China's retaliatory actions against US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan are largely symbolic. Beijing slapped restrictions on the export of sand to the island, as well as on some fish and fruit, but stayed away from semiconductors.
Historically, China has been very reticent to touch the high-tech sector because it recognizes that a lot of those high-end components that come out of Taiwan are important for mainland value chain and the supply chain there as well. So they've been very reluctant to hit those high-end products or services, which is why they've stuck to these more symbolic kind of trade embargoes and tariffs.
A key reason for this is the boomerang effect touching Taiwan's high-tech exports would have on the Chinese economy. While China has prioritized building up its domestic semiconductor sector, experts believe self-sufficiency is still far off.
It's not so clear that China stands to benefit from all the sanctions. I mean, there is going to be repercussions and a blowback for China as well, given that over 70% of Taiwan's exports to China are high-tech goods, semiconductors, and all of the high-tech goods that get into its own manufacturing processes. So it's a case of cutting your nose off to spite your face.
One of the problems that China is facing right now is that the self-sufficiency is not great. Maybe it's possible in some of the basically less advanced or mature type of chips, but definitely in the high-end space, there's still a very long way to go, as most of this type of chips are produced in Taiwan, Korea, and also the US. So I would say that given the heavy cost that China may have, it's quite impossible for it to actually target the chip industry in the short run, at least I would say in the next 5 years.
Another concern is the prospect of regular Chinese military exercises near Taiwan. That could cause disruptions to one of the world's busiest shipping routes, heightening uncertainties about global supply chains.
I would say in the short run, the risk may be is a little bit, but I'm a bit worried about whether a lot of these drills will become a more normalized activity, not only from China, but maybe increasingly we will start to see more presence by the US or even for Taiwan itself, then for the economic activities, for the normal basically passage of the Strait route, not only for sea, but also for the airspace would be increasingly challenging.
All this heaps more pressure on US-China relations. Beijing has already halted cooperation on a range of issues, including climate change. But experts believe it will be in nobody's interest to revive a trade war. And on a global scale, prolonged tensions are likely to exacerbate inflationary pressures.
All else equal, on an aggregate basis, what it does is that it destroys some demand. because of the uncertainty it raises and because of all the risks that it brings on. And it also brings up costs, because what happens is that every party involved, China will want to have a lot more capacity. And with capacity, they'll also need a lot more resources. So they'll hoard more resources. And it is in the interest of every party to do the same. So collectively, what it does is it brings up prices. For the same level of demand, you get much higher prices.
Experts warn that any miscalculation in the Taiwan Strait could raise the risk of prolonged conflict, meaning that for investors, the only certainty in the next few months is continued volatility.